Yep, I was just
Okay.
starting it.
Oh, great. Thanks. Sorry. Um, so the Lower Grand goes basically from Portland to Grand Haven. So it's, 89, 92, depending on kind of where we start of how long of the portion we have. Obviously, upstream of that is the Middle Grand, and upstream of that is the Upper Grand. So, the river in the Lower Grand part is much different than the river they have in the Upper Grand. And so we have very different management strategies and even different requirements of a water trail. So we are working together though in that partnership with the upper and the middle. But just kind of trying to work together for the water trail to eventually kind of be a seamless experience between the sections. For the Lower Grand, the major tributaries, we have the Flat coming in from the north, the Thornapple coming in from the south, and then the Rogue River as well. So, what is a water trail? Really what I sort of expressed is the trail is there. We don't have to build the trail, but we have to build the infrastructure so that people know how to use the trail and be safe using the trail. So, there's a lot of different safety concerns, and we've really highlighted those in the plan. But it's really just an opportunity, as you do a hiking trail, there's signage, there's markings, so you know where you are, and mapping that will help you. So eventually that's where we're going to get to with the water trail. There's been a lot of studies of just the economic impact of having water trails and having a water trail go through your community. So, and just, and probably all of you have realized that by increased use of your access sites, probably, and especially during the pandemic, people kind of, explored their backyards and found that the Grand River was kind of a easy place to get in and out and experience something that they hadn't, really done that's in their own backyards. But the outdoor industry, it's a huge part of economic drivers in this area because of all of our water. It does provide jobs. In Michigan, over 140 million just revenue in some of these water recreation experiences. And then if people do come to your community, the surveys have said they spend between 50 and $100 per day just coming through your community. So being able to advertise what you have at your access sites and draw people to your community is kind of one of the goals of the water trails. And really just being a water trail for everybody. People have different ways of paddling. People have different ways of just being on the water and sometimes just looking at the water, but really trying to make it accessible. And in some of the communities, doing those accessible kayak launches is really being inclusive to get everybody out on the water. So again, I kind of explained the upper, middle, and lower, but the upper and the middle, I'll get into some of those state designations, but they do have state designation as a water trail, so we're just kind of trying to catch up. But the rules have changed a little bit, so that's why we are not going for state designation right now, but we need to do some implementation before we do that. So there's the upper, um, and the colors of the logos that we have are reflected in sort of the upper, so the Upper Grand River Watershed Alliance, this is kind of their color scheme for the logos. And then we go to the middle, and this is their color scheme. So we're trying to keep that consistency throughout it, and those are our color schemes. So, um, you know, David wanted to switch colors with the upper, but we can't do that. So these are our colors. Um, but just to show, the Grand is the longest river in Michigan at 252 miles. So that's a long trail, and people have kayaked or paddled the whole thing, and it takes about 2 weeks. So one of the things we also want to look at is how do you plan a trip on the Grand? Where can you stop if you want to do overnight? Where can you camp? Things like that. So those are all kind of identified in this development plan that we have created. I did send you all a link to be able to look at that, and I appreciate those who did look at it and provided us some comments, which is great. That's kind of the whole point of it, is to be able to give us some feedback, on the whole plan. And this plan is going to be, we haven't really determined how often it's going to be updated, but a few of you said, we're planning a few more access site, and certainly when downtown um, things happen there and more access sites are added downtown. So this development plan will be consistently updated with new launch sites, but we do want it to be um, accurate and to be kind of a resource for people to use to be able to do that. So the outline of the plan, and this is really following the guidance that Michigan has for developing a water trail. You have to have a development plan. You kind of have to have a plan and implement the plan before you can really be designated, because if you don't have the signage and you don't have things, how can you really call yourself a water trail? So we kind of have an introduction to the Grand River. We talk about the planning process, and we had community open houses. We had some workshops to look at, what do we need to put in the plan. We went out and ground truthed all of the access sites just to make sure we knew where they were. We had the correct GPS locations. We had an idea of what kind of amenities they had at each one of those access sites. And again, that's going to be updated often as people add restrooms or kayak lockers, things like that. Then we talk about the opportunities, challenges, and just kind of general considerations, and that's where we have some of the safety information, just and what are some of the opportunities that you have along the river trail, and what might be some challenges. And then we want to get into the recommendations. So we have a list of the existing access sites, but then we also have a list of here's pending. These are things that are sort of planned, but then also if one of you are planning to put in a new access site, here's some recommendations of ways you could make it more accessible, or the amenities that are most desired at an access site. Um, and then you know, maybe recommendations for the types of designs that you might want to do. And even if you want to upgrade your access site, these are kind of where the recommendations would be. So, and then we have kind of those mileage tables where you have um, a sort of a crosswalk of here's all the locations and what's the distance between them. So you can easily see what kind of trip is between each location. And then we like maps, so we always have to have lots of maps. So the first thing that we talked about, we did have a lot of community input. I mean, we were trying to do this during COVID, so it was a little challenging, but we did have a open house downtown in Grand Rapids. Um, we had an open house at one of the parks in Ottawa County. And then we've had a couple just webinars or, online meetings to try to get input just to see what people want in a water trail, what would be their experience, and just kind of some of the considerations. So, but we will continuously ask for input as things get going and implemented. So one of the biggest sections in the water trail development plan is the access sites. And this is kind of a map of where all and I think it's 36, Courtney, 37. What do we land on? I don't know, they keep adding. So I think we're at 37.
30, 36.
36. Okay.
Mhm.
But they range quite a bit, as you can see, from kind of just either a concrete or a dirt ramp, to being a full-scale marina where you can go in. Some have great restrooms, parking areas. Some have the accessible type of launches. So a lot of different areas, and in the plan you'll see that we ranked them A, B, or C, and the criteria for that. Um, and is explained in there. Sort of A has everything, bathrooms, parking, water, all of those, really high level amenities. And a C might be, hey, you can get in, but don't expect a full restroom or something like that. So but we did not include, maybe the walking trails off of a bridge intersection. You can get in the river, but it's not an official access site. So there's probably a lot of different areas where you can get in, but we wanted to keep it at those that are actually owned and maintained, by an entity, and available to the public. So we have, these are the access points. As I said, we ground truth 28 sites. I think we could probably update that. Some of them have been added since we did that, but we've gone out and either had people do that for us, or bring back information. But this was kind of what was assessed at each of the access sites. So this is the map that is currently on our website, I believe, that is interactive. So if you click on the link, you can kind of see all of the information that's on that site, and the name of the site, who owns it, and all of the amenities there, and river miles, like how far is it from the mouth of Lake Michigan. So we're working on fulfilling all of those all of the information in that spreadsheet. And this is just the QR code that we've been putting on some of our marketing materials so that if you go to that QR code, it takes you right to our website so you can get that information. And thanks, Courtney. She's putting it in the chat too. I talked about the safety and water quality. So safety is, working with all of the rescue people, being able to know, having a sense of where you are on the water trail, and if you dial 911, is that covered? Is the whole water trail covered by 911? Putting some emergency type of information on the river, um, and certainly having it at the access sites. So, who's responsible? Is it the sheriff? Is it the, local, local community? Who has a swiftwater rescue team? So all of that is kind of outlined in the plan. But then a lot of what we do too at Elgro is water quality. So we've been doing a lot of monitoring. We work with Eagle and a lot of our partners, especially GVSU, in looking at a lot of water quality to make sure, we want to put people on the water, but we also want to make sure that it's safe and they're not going to get sick. So there have been a couple installations downtown measuring and using kind of a proxy for E. coli that we could actually get sort of real-time measurements of E. coli. It's not actually E. coli, but it's a proxy for the E. coli, so that we can know, hey, if it's a kind of a high water event, there's probably E. coli in the water, not a safe time to go in. We're still kind of working on what is that warning system going to be, kind of like at the beaches, green, yellow flags, red flags. Um, but that's something we can always have on our website and have very accessible for people to just understand, is it safe to get in the water right now? So all of that information is stored on our data repository, which is also on our website, and you can go onto the data repository and click on a waterway that you're interested in and kind of see what kind of water quality monitoring is happening there. Signage. This is always one of the most challenging parts of a water trail, and we're trying to stay consistent with the middle and the upper. And so this is kind of the template that we've worked on with them. So it just kind of, this would have our logo, this would be the name of the launch, where's the next launch downstream, how many miles are you from Lake Michigan, and then here's how the community that you're in might be highlighted, but then how do you get more information? It goes to the website. So we're talking about, also what kinds of things can you put on that sign, indicating sort of like a rest area, what are you going to see? And these water trails, the Clinton and the Lake St. Clair, they're part of um, sort of a previous water trail certification that the state had, but they're also trail towns. So we can kind of get into that as we get further along. But so this is kind of, oh, and then also getting um, signs installed on every road crossing, because I know when I'm paddling, it's really helpful to know, hey, where are you? What kind of road? And then, it's kind of, if you do get in trouble, you at least remember, hey, I just passed such and such road. Because it's a long river and it's hard to, we're not going to put signs every quarter mile to know where you are. That'd be a lot of signs. Then opportunities and challenges, like I said, some of the access sites, we might, there might be a place you can get in, but it's not really maintained or managed by someone, or if it is, maybe ownership has changed. So we want to be aware of kind of what are some of the challenges maybe of people to get in. Obviously, we have dams in the river that are a challenge right now. Still waiting to kind of work with the state to see what is going to happen with all those dams. But it's a really great opportunity also for education, just getting people out in the river, being more aware of the river and what's happening. And then sort of the end of it is just making sure that the user has a really great experience on the river, however they go on. Measuring success, that's really for us, it's, first of all, putting in the implementation and doing the recommendations in the plan, but then also are people having a good experience on the river? I mean, that's kind of the biggest measure of success. Are people being safe on the river? And how is that helping our communities that are part of this water trail? So I want to hand it over to Andrea, but I've been talking a lot, so maybe I'll take a break here for a second. And does anyone have any questions? You could just unmute yourselves. You could raise your hand. I know I kind of covered a lot right there. Um, Anybody have a question?
Yeah, Wendy, this is David
No.
Markward. Thank you for that presentation. That was really well done and I think very comprehensive. Gave me a better picture. I know I've been a part of this here and there over the time, but this was a really great way in which to see it all pulled together. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
A specific question really has to do with the dam in Grand Rapids for us. Does your signage begin to think about or include any kind of warnings or ways to safely get around the dam? Should we be thinking about that if it hasn't been? I'm just curious where you're at on that.
Yeah, we definitely, that's on our minds. And it's almost like at Canal Street Park, that's really kind of the last access point before the dam. So we would have people get out there. There'd be a lot of signage. These dams are dangerous. You must get out now. It's almost, it's a long portage to get back in, and the only one right now is all the way down really at Johnson Park. So right
Yeah.
now we kind of have this big gap, and which is okay. We have, you paddle down to downtown, you might have to skirt around downtown and get back in. For those that are familiar with downtown, there are a couple little access sites that you could get in, but some are in the middle of the current low-head dams. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of warnings. Right now, there's just a teeny little sign on 6th Street Bridge that says "Danger, dam ahead."
Right.
Portage left, but there's a flood wall, so it's not great right now.
Yeah.
But we do plan to improve that. And as the river revitalization project actually gets done, then eventually we can add, maybe there's a shorter portage to be able to get in at 6th Street Park, or at least below the dam. So yeah, it's kind of been in flux. We haven't really wanted to design anything yet because we don't know what that final design for the restoration is going to look like.
Certainly.
And
But thank you. That's a
currently,
really good point.
currently on our online map that's on our website, that's I linked, there is a big section that's red and shows a lot of the warnings. So we are even
Mhm.
just right now, before even creating the official trail and everything, making those dams known so people can be aware.
That's great. Thank you both.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, so now we'll get into kind of the meat of this meeting, is to talk about the partnerships. And as I said, we have a lot of partners, like a lot of the people on this call. We have a steering committee that a few of you are on. So those are kind of our partners that are helping us develop the water trail. And so getting letters of support, resolutions from the communities, this is a really important part. But one of the biggest parts is really this partnership between the access site owners. And I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Andrea, because she's had experience in creating these partnerships on other water trails. So go ahead, Andrea.
Thank you. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm really impressed with the number of access point owners who have showed up today. It's really good, and I'm hoping that you have been hearing about this and following along with the progress that Wendy and Elgro have been making on the development of the Lower Grand River Water Trail. And the presentation this morning, I think, was excellent, really good about how things are progressing. And so, it's really important that the access point owners be informed, be involved, be encouraged, and participate in the formation of the water trail. So what does that really look like? One of the things that Wendy had said in the previous slide was letters of support or resolution. Maybe your community supports the water trail, and you can get your council people maybe to sign a letter of resolution supporting that, or letters of support when we go for designation or we go for grant funding. That's very important. But as far as the access point owners, some degree of formalizing that relationship is really valuable, and we see it done with every other water trail that's around. So what does that look like? Um, All right, so it's the collaboration of those access point owners, and it could include other organizations and stakeholders as well who are working towards the implementation, but also the sustainability of the Lower Grand River Water Trail, because you all want to realize the many benefits that are available to not only your organization, to the people who are using the water trail, and also the region. All right, so what are we asking of you? There's a reason why we've called you all here together. We would like to confirm that your organization will include their access point officially and be an active participant in the Lower Grand River Water Trail. We would like you to review your part of the proposed plan that Wendy sent out, and sign off that the information is correct and complete for your access point. They've done a really good job of doing assessments, gathering the information, and we just don't want it to go forward with incorrect information. And so that is a responsibility of yours to make sure that we're portraying your access points in the correct way. Also, to participate as an access point owner in the upcoming water trail meetings that we're going to have, we're going to gather many more people together, understanding that the access point owners have a different responsibility or management situation than, say, a stakeholder who really wants this to happen but doesn't have the responsibility of an access point. So we will be having more of those water trail wide meetings. And then finally, to consider and review, be a part of the development of an MOU or partnership agreement. There are several different forms that this can take, but it's meant to formalize and to encourage coordination of the water trail. So what could this MOU include? It's meant to describe how the partners will work together. It would include what a designated access point is. You know, Wendy was saying that what makes a water trail a water trail? Well, it's those designated access points that you have that tell people where they should go, where they should put in and take out, and what is there so that they will use the water trail safely and responsibly. What is acceptable use? What is management of your access point considered to be? And what are the safety considerations that we need to include, because that is very important to the visitor experience. So what are your roles and responsibilities? What will ELGRO do as being the facilitator of the water trail? And what will access point owners do as far as responsibilities? So it also would include information about what signage should be included, what other amenities are suggested, but not necessarily demanded or necessary. That you can always build up to that. What communications have to happen or should happen? You know, the inclusion of the water trail in your website for purposes of visitor experience and safety. And then promotion, including it in your materials. Say you're having a festival or an event. It's at your park, but it is part of the Lower Grand River Water Trail. It's beneficial to everybody to include that. So what would it not include? This is always really important, and you will be included in the drafting of this MOU. it is not the development, it is not intended to be the development of another organization or 501c3. I think that there's probably enough of those already. There are not expectations to build or improve your access point to the highest standard. Maybe you have one of those muddy trails with just a put in. It's not expected that you're going to build a fully accessible kayak launch with a 10-stall bathroom and a restaurant. So it is, even though they're ranked according to what is there, it is not expected that you would build up to be everything. And it would not include control or authority over your property or your operations. And I think that that's really important. So any thoughts or questions on that? Does that make sense to you?
Thought it was good. Thanks, Andrea.
So this will be in development. I have many drafts, and what we'll do is put something together and put it out there, but then have you provide your feedback until we get to a place where it makes sense for everybody and is beneficial to and hits everybody's mark.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. You seen that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we talked a little bit about the designation and having MOUs and having commitments from the access point owners is very important to be able to get that designation. They need to see, you know, the buy-in and the support from the access sites along the trail. So these are the current state designated water trails that are on the DNR site. When you go to trails, water trails, you know, these are the ones that show up. A lot of these were designated in Governor Snyder's last days of his governorship because he wanted Michigan to be the trail state. And so anyone that had some sort of plan and submitted it, he kind of said, okay, these are state designated trails. So even though the upper and the middle are designated as state trails, they don't meet what the current criteria are for developing a water trail. But we're working together to try to get, you know, all of us kind of on the same level to be able to work together on the whole river. So, and one of the issues right now is that the DNR does not have someone, and maybe Pat or someone from the DNR could expand on this, but as far as we know, you know, we've tried to connect with a person in charge of the water trails for the DNR, and there's been kind of on again, off again person. And as far as we know, because we keep checking, but as far as we know, there's no application out at this point of even being able to apply for a water trail. So maybe Pat dropped off. So anyway, those are some of the, oh, Justin, can you answer that?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
I was gonna say, I can look into that. I know that they have some trail specialists. I'm not for sure if they have a water designated trail specialist, but I know they have like non-motorized trail specialists, and they break it up into districts. So I can look into that and go from there for you guys.
That would be great. We've had a few people and they've just, you know, changed positions or left. So, you know, and it's not, for us, it's not a huge rush because we don't feel we're ready to even apply for that designation, but it would be good to
Okay.
know, you know, what are we striving for? What do we actually need to have in order to, you know, apply? And so if you could get any information, that
Yeah.
would be wonderful. Thanks.
Right. And Justin, we have also reached out to Jill Self, who I think is the Southwest Regional Trails person designated with DNR. And I've also been in contact with Tim Novak, who is more overall DNR. But we just haven't come up with the person yet.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna send you probably Tim and Jill's contact, but if you're already on that, then you already beat me to the punch. But I'll look into it and see if they are gonna create a position for the water trails I know that they got a lot of different positions over there, so I was just about to check my org chart to see if maybe
Great.
I got something a little bit more up to date.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And I think it's even more valuable since there were appropriations that were under consideration for funding the state designated water trails. Then how do we get there? How
Yeah.
do we become one of those?
And that funding was approved.
Oh, it was.
It was
Yay.
approved. So existing water trails are all getting $50,000 to help implement the trail, and we'd like to be a part of that. So,
Yes.
so right now, what we understand the criteria for a state designated water trail is, we have the development plan. Like I said, it's an iterative thing, but I think it has the it has the correct information in there, or what they're looking for. Maybe we have a quality trail experience, offering clear information for the users and just having this broad community support. So that's why we're, gathering you today. And then also, as Andrea said, we'll have more meetings for the community. And so what we've done so far, I said version 1 of our Lower Grand River Development Plan, Water Trail Development Plan. We have had the fortunate partnership with some very good photographers and people that are familiar with the river. So photos and videos have been supplied by some of and these are 2 people that are on our Water Trail Steering Committee that have really provided some great, and in the Water Trail, most of those photos are from Tom Bell, who's been a really great addition to this team. We've been working with different like students, and we did have some help from a design, like a graphic designer, marketer, to get some of this promotional material developed. And Kendall College's students have really latched onto this and helped us create like templates for a brochure and some kiosks, and just it's nice to have those fresh eyes and designers looking at these things. So that's been kind of fun to be working with them. And as I said, we want to create these maps, so we need an interactive map for the website, we need a map for an overall brochure, we need a map maybe for just a flyer to hand out or a poster or something like that. So we're looking at how do we show the water trail in these various materials, and what kind of maps do we need for that. And then I don't know, these are just kind of some thoughts that I had about moving forward. So by the end of this year, we've had this meeting. We want to finalize, have a really good database of the owners and managers. So we have all their contact information, so we know, which sites and who we need to interact with. Arrange and facilitate a workshop with many more stakeholders, and not just one probably, but a few workshops. As I said, creating the maps, making sure that we have the information displayed correctly, and then getting the MOUs from the access site owners. So that's a lot for this year to try to, finalize all that, but that would put us in a really good position then to really start creating the signage, working with those access owners to install. We've been doing a lot of education already, but I think with, maybe some of that signage and some of the other things in place, we can really start on a more robust educational campaign. And then, I don't know, 2024, maybe apply for state designation. So it's kind of a goal, but we have some work to get there. And I'm sure I've left a lot of details out there, but so as I said, this is kind of the overall map, and this is what you would see on our website. But then I think, yeah, so then we've split it up, which we might do in a brochure. So these are all the access sites in Ottawa County. And Ottawa County, Erin's done a good job of just having lots and lots of places, but just exploring these bayous, and we have kind of a blowout of this area, just so you can actually see where they are. But trying to place them where people can see them, whether on the river left, river right. This is the Kent County one, and as as David's, we have lots of warning signs. Get out there, get back in here, kind of a long portage if you want to do that. But yeah, so you kind of have to get out there. And then Ionia, it's pretty sparse. So we have some recommendations of, it's kind of a long paddle between some of these if you just want to go out for a day with your family. So where would be some recommendations of if a community, so we've identified all the communities along the river. If the community wanted to put in an access site, hopefully the development plan would help them, kind of take those first steps on what they might need to do. So that's kind of what I had. This is my contact information. This is Andrea's information if you had more questions about her experience. But now I just kind of want to open it up for questions. I know, David, you sent me a great email with, looking at your sites, what we need to correct or what we need to add, which I really appreciate that. Did anyone else have a chance to look at their sites or have any comments about what we have, the information we have?
I guess I raised my hand, but I'll
Oh, there you did. Okay, yes.
comment. A couple. I have 2 questions and a comment. One question, as far as an MOU, when do you expect to be able to get us a draft? I know it will have to go. Got to go through like
Sure.
several, like 4 layers of approvals for me. So to get it through by the end of the year, I just want to have an idea so I can share that internally.
Yeah, I'll be putting together a draft within the next couple weeks. I have all the components and several examples, and so I just need to make it for that first draft, just put it out there to get the comments back and before we move forward. So yeah.
So if we
soon.
could get it to you by the end of, or toward the middle or end of August, and
Yeah.
then you could get it through your channels.
Then another is where can we find the latest version of the plan? Is that on the the Drive or in the cloud? Just if we could remind everybody, because if I wanted to look at, I'm not sure. I got so many different cloud things going on.
Yeah, I think I sent you a link. So it's on a Google Drive, and in the email that I sent out yesterday morning, there should be a link that takes you right to the plan.
Okay, and then I'll share it internally.
Okay.
Then my final comment is just for everyone, heads up, I don't know if anyone's experienced this right now. In the past, we've permitted without much issue accessible kayak launches, and we're doing one right now at Ottawa Sands, and we're just having a really hard time with Eagle on that all of a sudden. We have done them with stiff arms to keep them, just with the currents and stuff. They wanted to getting into like the smallest details of it. We usually do them, perpendicular, like a T. They were like, can you do it parallel? We don't know where this is coming from. There's been, over 100, as far as we know, permitted in the state. But just all of a sudden, they are, cracking down on, these things that are only in the water 3 months or 4 months out of the year. And it suddenly has become very difficult. Just a heads up for anybody that might have a plan to do that, be prepared, because we already bought ours with the structure we had permitted in the past. Yes. And I haven't dealt directly, my supervisor Kurt has, and he's had a lot of back and forth and phone calls with them, and it just seems kind of beyond common sense. I'm sure this call can relate to some of the things they've dealt with Eagle lately, at a much higher stakes level. But it's just, you're just trying to get a thing done that you've done in the past with not much issue, and suddenly it's becomes this, hours and hours of back and forth and work just to get a simple kayak launch in.
That's really good to know, because we do have a section in the plan that talks about permitting, and we should probably relook at that and just make sure we're having the right information in there. So
yeah, I would contact Eagle about that permit section and have them review it, because it's not great. Things that
right.
We're doing the smallest impacts, and yeah.
Yep.
It's like you think. Yeah,
yep.
And then they get, but maybe their big, huge budget increase will help them do better manage this stuff.
Maybe.
Well, and I think that's another way that the partnership is important, is that you can share these challenges, also your successes, but get some information from others about how they've made it through, and eventually you will be the contact for how you make it through with Eagle permitting.
Yeah, that's good. Sharon, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I did have a chance to review the plan as well. Very well done, by the way. Love the
Thanks.
pictures. And from a Saranac standpoint, everything was right on. There were no
Oh, good.
issues. One question, will we have access to the recording of this presentation?
Absolutely. Yep. I can send it out after the meeting. And so, yeah, and I wanted to offer too, if any of you with a community, if you're with a community and you would, you would like us to come to kind of present this information or help you at some point, explain, what we need, and we'd be happy to do that.
Great, wonderful, thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Sharon. Let's see. So let me go back to. So, I guess for those of you that might be on the steering committee, or Andrea or Courtney, I feel like I'm missing a lot of things that need to be done. Are there some other major bullet points that we need to think about or that we haven't thought about, and especially for access site owners, I guess?
I think one important thing is that the people on this call, whether or not they're the decision makers, need to confirm with their organizations that their site wants to be included in the water trail. It's already in the plan, but is this going to be something that is, even without having the signed MOU, is this something that their organization wants to do? I mean, we know that Aaron, has a whole bunch of sites and he's bought in, but it's some of the ones that maybe we haven't had communications with to be sure that their organizations are aware of and want to participate in this. I personally don't know any reason why they wouldn't want to. It's a great thing, but need to verify that.
No, that's good. And then also, if any of you are planning sites, I'm not sure we even, that we have that in the plan. We know of a few, maybe just because we work within the city, we know what they're doing. But if you are planning a site within the next few years, let us know. So, or give us those details that we can put that in the plan as kind of the future, so that, people can expect that, and then we can, be ready to kind of update the plan with that. I forgot to mention that for any of you that use the DNR, either the Passport or some of their, land and water grants, any of the Spark grants that are coming out, having your projects included in a water trail development plan does give you extra points on those applications. So that's another reason to make sure the information is accurate, and then we know of your future plans so that we can be sure that we have it in this development plan. And then you'll be more eligible to receive that funding. And I think, isn't that I don't know when the next Sparks grant is coming out, but I think most of them are usually due April 1st. Is that right? For those of you familiar with those grants, I think it's usually April. But they might be in different rotations now.
Also, when we go out to do the larger meetings of stakeholders and maybe elected officials and community members, having the maps there and having people provide information, oftentimes we get at that point people who say, oh, well, there's an access point right here. Well, you've already reviewed all the potential access points, so you're not going to add the one that's under the bridge that you have to go through, a really difficult place to get to. There's a reason why it's not on the map. So these are designated access points with official landowners and managers. So that's important to note too, because you will always get those people who have 100 more sites that they want you to include. But also, when we go out to the bigger community, we'll be able to include other components, points of interest and things that are relevant to that, maybe liveries or shuttle services or maybe a pedal paddle opportunity? Is there a bicycle trail near there? Just other information that we could, or plans that are in the works that are relevant to this.
I just wanted to bring up our website just so you can see. So just elgrow.org/Grand River Water Trail. So this is the interactive map. So we just kind of talk about what's happening. But if you want to, click on a site, this is kind of what it looks like. That's the name of it, the access site, what's there, who owns it. So yeah, just make sure that you look at all of that information that's there. I think this is, yep, these are all the Lowhead dams. So Courtney, is there anything, Courtney's our map maker. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the maps or information that we need or our future plans?
No, it would just be lovely if people would go through those points and check them out and see if they agree with the information that's there.
And then we also have this, we had this company come in a few years ago, and it's called Terrain 360. So you can take a virtual tour down the river, and which is kind of fun. We're still working with them to try to integrate it more into our water trail map. But right now it's kind of, I mean, he did have a motor on his little sort of catamaran kayak, but it's still slow. So it takes a long time to get down the river if you want to keep clicking on it. But at least, I think some of the value is to be able to see, if you are planning a trip, you can kind of see where the access site is and kind of see where you are. So you can, zoom around and see like the access sites and see if there's any challenges along the way and what you might see. So that's kind of fun. Still trying to integrate it. And I thought he was supposed to come back and actually do the Lowhead dams, but the river hasn't cooperated with the time that he's available to come up here, because I think he's from, I don't know, down south somewhere. But hopefully we could kind of get that finished so you can have that sort of experience. But definitely once those Lowhead dams are removed and that's an actual safe place to paddle downtown, we'll definitely try to do that again. Yeah, we just have more maps of what the water trail is. So if you wanted more information, you can go there. That's all we had. As I said, we will send out minutes from the meeting. We'll also send out a link to the recording. But if you have any questions along the way, please let us know and we'll respond, to any input that you're giving us about your access sites and send that out again for everybody to take a look. Well, thanks all for coming. I'll give you 4 minutes back to your day and hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks all for the
Thank you.
partnership. Great presentation today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.